Good morning everybody and welcome to today's webinar session. My name is Andrew White from the Advisor Support Team here in the Newcastle head office. Today's webinar session we'll be going through an annuities sales process demonstration, and we'll also be opening the webinar up for question and answers at the end of the session. Before I begin, could I just ask that everybody could raise their hand for me just to confirm that they can hear me okay, and to make sure the audio is set up correctly and working there. If you just want to press the orange hand icon with the green arrow beside it just to confirm you can hear me, that would be fantastic. Great, so it looks like everybody is up and running, so that's fantastic news. So as I mentioned before, today's session will be going through an annuities process, sales process on the workbench system. And then we'll be opening the line up for a question and answer session at the end. What I'm going to show you before we go into the demonstration is just the relevant pages on the positive solutions and intrinsic action at pages that you might need or you might find useful. I'm just going to open my screen up now. And again, could you just raise your hand to confirm you can see the screen in front of you to make sure we have got the video up and working correctly? Fantastic, that looks great. Thanks everybody. Okay, so I'm just going to draw your attention first of all, if you have joined the webinar sessions before, just going to draw your attention to the Advisor Support Team page, which I'm sure you probably are all seen already. I'd just like to remind you where this is. On the Advisor Support tab here, we've actually got a Workbench Sales Support page that we have created for our Positive Solutions advisors following on from the Easy to Do Business training courses. There's a variety of tools available on this page for you to access it in your own time. We've got video tutorials which cover Workbench, Office Web and the remuneration process. And we do also have a de facto video user guide down towards the bottom as well. Moving up back to the top of the page, we've actually got an advisor support graphic. Now if you're unsure of who to contact for support following on from your training course, this is quite a useful tool to use just to guide you in the right direction and make sure you do contact the correct team. So we've got the Advisor Support Team here, which I mentioned I'm a part of the team. We've actually got 9 team members at the moment. We've got 4 Advisor Relationship Support Team members who cover different areas of the UK. We've also got 3 financial planning experts who are all diploma qualified and can help you with any sort of compliance or more technical queries that you might have regarding the advice process. And we do also have 2 mortgage specialists as well, who've previously been mortgage advisors, and they can help you with any mortgage placement queries that you might have. In addition to that support, we do have relationship managers and field coaches who are all based out in the field. They're split up again across the UK depending on the region. Your relationship manager or field coach should have contacted you directly just to confirm exactly who your direct contact is. Although if you're not sure who it is, please just let the Advisor Support Team know and we can identify your particular contact for you and put you in touch with them. In addition to this support, we are hosting these Advisor Support Team webinars on a daily basis at the moment. They are every day from 10 AM to 11:30 AM. Some sessions will be themed, such as today's session where we'll be going through annuities. But please keep an eye out for Peter Coleman's weekly in the picture announcements, where we'll be sort of announcing the webinar sessions for the following weeks. Okay. In addition, de facto are also running their own webinar sessions. So if you would like to attend one of those sessions, the contact link is actually available here in the top right-hand corner. So you just need to click on here, and that will take you directly through to the de facto website to allow you to register. At the moment, they're running every Wednesday morning, afternoon, and Thursday morning as well. Okay. And finally, just the IT support team. I'm sure you've all come across them before, but they'll be there to help you if you've got any sort of technical issues with your laptop or tablet or the system. They'll also be the ones that sort of download the system onto your machine for you initially before you attend your training course. Okay, so back to the Workbench Sales Support page. We've also prepared an FAQ document for you. This is following on from the training courses which ran throughout December. I've just compiled a quick list of the frequently asked questions, just for you to read in your own time. It's just a 3-page document, which is covering off some of the sort of general system queries that we had. Okay. And going back to the Workbench Sales Support tab, towards the bottom of the page, we do also have a copy of the Delegate's Handbook. Now these are the handbooks that will have been provided to you on the training course. We've got a copy of the Financial Planning Workbook, mortgage and protection, and just the protection IPA workbook as well. And I'd just like to draw your attention to quite a useful page within this document. If we scroll down to page 3 and page 4, you've actually got a sales process quick guide, which I think is probably quite useful for you to use whilst you're processing your first few pieces of business on the new system, following the new compliance guidelines. So this basically details every product area. It goes through, it sort of details the fact find that you need to complete, the workbench sales process, whether you need an APR profiler, the research you need to carry out, the suitability report used, any further documentation, and whether that particular product requires pre-approval. Okay, so that's page 3 and 4 of the Delegate's Handbook. Again, you should have been given a copy of this on your training course, a paper copy, but if you do want a PDF version, this is available on this page. Okay. And finally, just a quick reminder of the important email addresses and telephone numbers should you need any support following on from your course. We've got a copy of the technology support telephone number and email address. We've also got the de facto support telephone number. That is a dedicated hotline that's been set up for Positive Solutions and Intrinsic Advisors. So I would recommend that you make full use of that if you do have any issues with de facto. And finally, just another copy of the Advisor Support Team telephone number and email address, and we can help you with any advice or sales process queries or concerns that you might have. Okay, so just a quick reminder of where this page can be found. It's from the Advisor Support tab on the Positive Solutions section, and then down, halfway down the page, to the Workbench Sales Support tab. Okay, and that's for any sort of general post-course sort of tutorial guides and information that you might need. So following on from this, I'm just going to show you the annuities, specific annuities page on the Intrinsic Extranet page. Now you can access the Intrinsic Extranet via your gateway. So we'd log into the gateway, and actually halfway down on the left-hand side there's a tab which says Resource Center. And this brings you through to the Intrinsic Extranet, which is quite a detailed sort of catalogue of different tools, guidelines, sales processes. Everything that you can need is on this Extranet page. So I'm just going to show you where you can find the annuities section. From within AQ Guidance and Processes, along the left-hand side here, you need to scroll down to Financial Planning Specialist, and down to At Retirement, and then Annuities. And this brings you to the section containing the sales process and documents required for the annuity sales process. And we're probably going to come back to this page later on in the process when we outline the pre-approval process, but just to let you know where that is for now, that's on AQ Guidance and Processes, Financial Planning Specialist, At Retirement, and then along to Annuities for you. Okay, so we're now going to launch into the annuities sales process demonstration. My colleague Sam Gibson, who's one of our financial planning experts, is going to run through the demonstration with you. We will be taking questions throughout, so if you do have a question relating to the specific sales process, we'll sort of pause at sort of regular intervals just to pick up those questions. Any further general questions just relating to the annuity process as a whole, we'll pick up at the end for you, okay? But we will pick up any sales process queries throughout the presentation. Okay, we'll just take a couple of moments whilst we load up the website for you. Maybe a period of silence for a couple of moments, but we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you. Hello everybody, it's Samantha here from the Advisor Support Team. I'm going to talk you through the process for the submission of an annuity. Andrea is going to control the system for me, so bear with us. It is a live system, and obviously if we have any technical issues, which we're not expecting to have any, you might just have to bear with us for a few moments because this is also quite recent, quite new to us as well. So what I'm going to do first of all, as you should all be able to see my screen, we're going to start at the gateway, the intrinsic gateway page, and just go into the sales process as you normally would. So Workbench, start new sales process, and then you would click on financial planning. So this will basically take you into the Workbench system, which will allow you to complete the fact find. It's exactly the same process if you were completing an investment. So what we'll do is take you through right from the start, complete the fact find right up until to the annuity section. Okay, so like I say, you would search for a client and put in all the client's details. Obviously the client is not on the system, so we're going to create a new client. And then you'll just put in all of the client details here, and this will create the new client for the Workbench fact find. It's important that you complete all of the mandatory sections within the fact find, because it won't let you proceed any further until you complete those, and those are the ones marked with the asterisk next to them. So like you can see there, Andrea's only completing the ones which are mandatory. Then what we're going to go into is launch sales process. Now we're going to try and keep this as simple and straightforward, just to try and work through the system. So we're only going to do a single customer, and we're not going to have any loans or mortgages or anything like that. So we'll just try and get through the fact find as quickly as we can and take you to the annuity section. Okay everyone, so now you'll come to the disclosure screen, so you would just complete this as normal. The client who's present, anybody else present, so any third parties, if there's a power of attorney, which in this case there's not, and the relevant terms of business or SECD document in which version. So with all new applications, new business, it would be version 4 that you would use for the financial planning. And it would be the date of the fact find, obviously, which we're going to put in as today's date. Okay, and then following on from that, you'll just click into personal details, and then we'll start to complete more in-depth details about the client. So with this client, she is single, and she has no dependents, and she does not have an up-to-date will. So if that's the case, it'll bring up a statement here which will be for you to read out to the client and just explain obviously the reasons why the client should make the will. So it's just the same process as what you'll already have been through. So then just click next from there. And then following that, you'll be taken to the contact details page where you'll complete the address details, the residence status, which is owner-occupier, and their contact details. And then you'd move on to setting the scope, and this will bring you up to the scope wheel, which will allow you to explain which areas you're going to be discussing with the client. Like I say, this is a full financial planning fact find, so you can click on all of the areas if it was to be a full financial review. In this case, we're just going to click on retirement planning, but as you're aware, you will need to just click on all of the other areas and explain why you don't want to discuss those. So Andrew's just typing into the box now, just like I say, you'd give a reason as to why you wouldn't be looking to discuss those any further. So like I said, we do have a few questions in at the moment, but I'm going to just go through a few more screens and then we'll take a break and have a look at your questions, see if we can get an answer for those in a few moments. Okay, so once you've completed all of the areas on the scope reel, you would just move on to the fact find. And then this will bring up the occupation and income details for the client. Now with this client, we're going to have them as retired, so they don't receive an employed income, but they will have an income from their pension. And the reason that we're going to put this through, I'll explain to you in a few moments. So like I say, just complete the income details screen with the type of income that they're receiving and the amount of income. Okay, so in this case we're going to have the client earn $20,000 a year gross income, and that's paid through a pension. The client is a UK tax resident and they are UK domicile, and they've got no plans to change residency. So here you would just complete the tax and NI status details, so just the same as you would on any other case. And like you say, any boxes that are not mandatory, you don't need to complete those. Now, as you can see on all of the screens here, there is space for you to make notes. So just like with any standard fact find, if there's anything relevant to that page, it's a good idea to obviously just make a note at the bottom, and that will then go into the notepad, which is at the top of the screen. And then you can just use that for reference when you go back to the client at a later date, and also just to keep a track of any details that they mentioned during the interview. Okay, so just moving on from there, if you just click next, and that will take you up to the mortgage and other commitments screen. So here you would input if they have any loans or liabilities or any mortgages. In this case, like I say, we'll just put it down for no, just to keep things simple. And then onto property and other assets. So like we mentioned earlier, the client is the owner of a property. And it is their main residence. Again, you don't need to actually put these details in where there's not a mandatory asterisk next to them, but if you want to complete it, would just be beneficial to the fact find. And then click next again onto that. Okay, and now we come to the pension details screen. So as we mentioned earlier, our client is receiving a pension income, and this is where you would put details of the client's existing personal pensions, and this is the pension that we're going to look at creating the annuity for. So in this case, the client does not have a company pension, but they do have a personal pension, and this is where you put details of the existing personal pension. So the owner is obviously the first client, the type of pension, which in this case is a personal pension. Again, you don't need the scheme number or the commencement date. We're going to put the provider as Aegon, and the current full fund value is 50,000. Now again, a lot of this you don't actually need to complete, so we're only going to complete the mandatory stages. So we're going to put down that the client is contributing £200 per month into the pension, and that it will form part of the estate on death. Okay, so just moving on from there, the client does not have any preserved pensions, and they do not have any protection rights for any enhanced pension. Like I say, with the projected annual state pension, that's not a mandatory box that you need to complete. So if you don't know those details, that's absolutely fine. Just leave that blank, and then just move on to the next screen. and this will just bring out the budget planner. So as you're probably aware, you can either complete these on a separate basis, or you can just amalgamate the full amount and put that into the other box at the bottom. But you do need to complete something into the budget planner. So we're going to put down that monthly outgoings in this case are £250, and then just follow on to the next screen. Okay, now just taking some health details for the client. So the client is in good health. The client's a non-smoker. Any income changes, so do they anticipate any increase in income? And that would be no, and any decrease in income, that would be no also. Again, any capital changes in the near future or CGT allowance use, so that would be no. And the client is not concerned with the effects of inflation at this stage. The client does not anticipate any increase in expenditure, and they've not lapsed any policies in the last 6 months. Now, we're going to put the client does have an emergency fund, which is important that you make sure that there is some emergency fund in place. So in this case, the emergency fund is £5,000, and that's held in a bank account. Okay, everybody, so we're at the stage now where we're going to move on to the needs analysis, and what I'm going to do is just pause for a couple of moments, let everyone just have a think if they have any questions up to this stage about the fact find that we've completed so far. If so, please just put your questions into the question box, and like I say, we'll come back to you in a couple of moments. Okay, everybody, so we don't have any questions at the moment. Actually, we've just got a question through from Steve. Steve asks, do you need a full breakdown of expenditure? You don't actually need a full breakdown, you just need an overall amount. It depends, like I say, on the conversation with the client, if you feel it would be easier for the client to just give you a breakdown one-to-one, or if they can just give you an overall lump sum. So as long as you put something in the box at the bottom, then like I say, that's sufficient. And with regards to the state pension projection, like I say, if they're aware of what they're going to receive from the state pension, then by all means you can put that into the box, but it's not a mandatory field. You could also make notes in the notes section. Like I say, it's not something that you actually need to complete for the fact-find purposes. Okay, so I hope that answers your questions there, Steve. If it does, if you can just raise your hand for me. That's excellent. So what we're going to do now is move on to the needs analysis screen. So this is where you'll start to complete about the annuities. Okay, so moving on to the monthly financial summary screen, and this will give you a breakdown of what we have input into the fact find, including any mortgages, other commitments, monthly outgoings, which like we put in with £250, the net income, which is £1,331, and therefore the NDI following that. So if you're happy with that and that all matches up, just move on to the next screen. And this will come up with the net asset summary. So again, any savings and investments, you would just put the information in there. So in this case, we're going to put on 5,000. We've got the property value, which is 150. So the total net assets should come up there as about 155,000. Yeah. So like I say, you just fill in the details of the source of the funds, which is the bank account for the emergency fund. And then moving on from here, we'll go on to a needs analysis. Okay, so this screen is with regards to the retirement needs analysis. Now, whenever you come to this screen, you will always click budget/transfer-based analysis. Now that basically gives you the option going forward to select the annuity. If you click anything other, people do tend to click not required, because I can understand it doesn't really make too much sense to click budget transfer-based analysis. Not required will actually not allow you to click on an annuity as we go further down the fact find. So whenever you're doing an annuity case, you'll always click on budget/transfer-based analysis. Like I say, this is something we've fed back with regards to it being a little bit unclear. So that's maybe getting changed later on in the year, but at the moment, if you can just remember that, so you'll always click on the middle one. Then you would just go to next. Okay, so this will come to the budget transfer base screen. Now, it'll tell you here what age the client would like to retire at, so you would just complete those details there. Like I say, it doesn't really make a difference with this case. This is just to give you an example. And if the client's already retired, you can just put down the age that they retired at or the current age now. So like I say, that doesn't make any difference. Now, as you can see, the client's current annual income is shown as 0. The reason for that is the client doesn't receive any employed income, but they do receive a pension income. Now, with this system here, the pension income that they receive will always show as 0. So although it's saying 0 and you have put in that they're receiving, for example, 20,000 a year, that will still show as 0. Now, as we discussed earlier, the client is contributing £200 a month into the pension, so annually that's $2,400. And it also tells us underneath that the maximum the client could continue to contribute to the pension would be a further £40 a month. So again, that's just for a discussion with the client. Following on from this, you would just click yes. Now, as you can see, where we've selected yes there, which is the having reviewed this need area, does the client wish to receive any further advice or take any action at this time? You would always click yes to this, because this will then allow you to go through to the annuity planning system. If you were to click no, what it's basically saying is that the client doesn't want any pension advice. So we've clicked yes on here. We're going to put down that the client is not going to contribute on a monthly basis, and they're not going to put in a single lump sum contribution, but they're purely just going to transfer their existing pension from Aegon, which is 50,000, as we completed earlier in the fact find. So you would just complete the transfer amount as 50,000, and then select next. Okay, so moving on to the priorities and actions screen. This is basically where you complete what the order of priorities is for the client. As you remember, when we were on the scope wheel, we only completed the retirement planning option. So in this case, that is the client's main priority. So you would just put some actions in the box there and explain the reasons for that. Now, following on from that, it's got the disposable monthly income breakdown, which, like we mentioned before, is £1,081. So they're not going to be contributing to this on a monthly premium basis, but they are going to be putting a lump sum amount of 50,000 in. So on those 3 boxes at the bottom, you should have the disposable monthly income, the available monthly budget if they're contributing to a pension monthly, and following that, the available lump sum, which is if they're making a transfer or paying in a one-off lump sum. Okay, so following on from that, you would go to Attitude to Risk. So this would just take you to the same system that you would be used to, and you would complete the Attitude to Risk profiler. Now, in this case, we're not going to complete the risk profiler. I'm sure you all know how to complete that. So we're just going to select the client's attitude to risk as balanced, and then explain the reasons for this. Okay, so following on from that, again, there's an opportunity for you to make notes at any point during the fact find if there's anything you need to add onto the notepad. You would just click Design Solution. And this will just give you a statement about the attitude to risk. Like it would mention throughout the fact find, if there's any areas that you forget to complete or any mandatory areas that you miss out, you will get an error message or this type of message to say that you've not completed it. If that's the case, then you will have to go back and obviously complete that or accept that you've missed that on purpose. So it won't let you just forget something. So in this case, we're going to click OK because we know that we haven't completed the attitude to risk. Okay, so then we come onto the recommendations screen. So with the recommendations, you would go to add quote, which is under quote list, and you would have just had the conversation with the client on which product. So as you can see, you would click the need area as retirement planning, the product type, which is going to be an annuity, and which provider you're going to be transferring the annuity across to. The date of quotation would be today's date, and the applicant is obviously either client 1, client 2, depending on how many people are on the fact find. Now again, we're not going to be putting across any regular premium into this pension, into this annuity, but we are going to be transferring the full single premium of 50,000. You don't need to complete anything with regards to the term, that's not a mandatory field, but you would need to put in who the life assured is, and the benefit is for an annuity income. And retirement income, and then in brackets annual, that would also be the same lump sum that you're going to be transferring. So in this case, it would be 50,000. So the amount that you have under single premium, you will also repeat the same amount into the retirement income section. Now where it says, is this the top of policy, you would say no. And are you applying for this product? This would always be yes. If you were to click no, again, the system would stop because you've not applied for any products. So following this, you would click yes. And underneath this, it will then bring up a further box which will show replacements recommendation. You're not going to be doing any replacements, so you would just click on no for that. And then you would also complete in the box underneath the fund name and how much you're going to be investing. Now, although you've already sort of explained this in the box above, as a slight workaround for the moment, you would need to complete the fund name and the amount invested, even though it probably will be 100% of the fund value. Obviously, if you were going to split the fund, that's where you would put the relevant percentage amounts in there. If you don't complete that box, though, again, it won't let you go any further. So once you've completed that, you would go to the suitability letter. Now, as you're probably aware with the system with regards to the annuities section, the suitability letter will not actually work on this workbench gateway system. So what we would need you to do is open the suitability letter, but then shut it down straight away and simply go into the suitability letter template, which is on the intrinsic extranet, which I'm going to show you now. So you would go to the AQ guidance process page, and then again where Andrea showed you earlier, go to the annuity section. At the bottom of the page, it'll actually give you the suitability letter templates, and there's quite a few to choose from there. So you can just use one of those templates, whichever one is relevant, and you can obviously amend that accordingly dependent on the client's circumstances. You would then save the suitability letter, and then you would upload that to Officeweb, and upload any further documents to Officeweb that are relevant to the case. But this is basically the final screen that you would be on. So you would save the case. So where it says close contract or just close, you wouldn't press either of those. You would just save the case, and then you would just quit to come out of the gateway system. And then it'll bring you back to the home page. So what we're then going to do is show you how to go back into the case through Officeweb. Now, with all annuities at the beginning, you would need to send these up for pre-approval. So you would upload all of your documents onto Officeweb, and following this, we're going to give you the contact details to send this over to the pre-approvals department. Bear with me a moment, we're just going to get the training version of Officeweb up, and then we'll show you how to upload the documents on there. Hi everyone, just while we're trying to get some training set up for the Officeweb system, just so we can get access to that, I'm just going to answer a couple of questions that we've had in. So I'll just have a read through these, and then I'll come back with an answer on those. Okay, we've got a question in from Paul, which asks, what if the client is retired and has no income? What do you insert in the income box? Well, if the client is completely retired and they receive no income, not even state pension benefits or private pension benefits, you would just complete that as a 0. You would make notes into the notepad just to explain where the income comes from in order to pay for household outgoings, etc. But other than that, you can just put that in as 0. So I hope that answers your question there, Paul. If you can just raise your hand to let me know that you're okay with that. That's excellent, thank you. Let's have another read of some of the questions that we've got in. We have a question through from Martin. Martin asks, what happens if you close the case? Can you reopen without losing information? Well, yes, Martin, once you close the case, it just saves the information that you have. But with any annuity case or pension transfer case, you would need to save it and exit out of the case. So try not to close the case because you would not set remuneration or complete the submission on the case until pre-approval has came back. But you can close the case, and then you can just cancel the checkout on that and go back in and amend it if you need to. But the best way before pre-approval has been granted would be to come back and save the case and just exit out as normal. Okay, everybody, thanks for waiting there. So we've got the system set up now to show you how to upload the documents to Officeweb. So like I said earlier, at the screen where you complete the fund amount, so that would be 100% for the fund and the fund name, like I say, you would save that and exit out of it. You would not go any further to set remuneration, and where it says close and create contract or create contract, like I say, you would not do either of those. You would purely save it and exit out of the system. It would only be once pre-approval has came back that you would go back into that and then set remuneration, which you would do through Officeweb. So Andrea is just going to show you now how to upload documents to Officeweb. So if you go onto the gateway, the intrinsic gateway homepage, and underneath Workbench it has a commission/fee administration tab. So if you click on this, it'll then bring you through to the Office web browser, and you can just search for a client as normal. So we're just going to use a test client at the moment. And if you see on the left-hand side at the bottom of the various options, so there's client search, client details, sales processes, client reminders, quotes list, policy list, fees, ongoing charges. Underneath that it actually says documents. So if you click on documents, you will get two boxes. On the left-hand side it'll be folders, and on the right-hand side it'll be files. So if you just click at the bottom of files, which is add, and then you'll get a box which will give you the options to browse on your current network, and you can upload files through that. So you may want to save any client details into a desktop folder, and you can also add more files if you needed to. So it gives you the option to add 5, but if you want to add further, you can. Then you would just click upload, and then they would show in the file section, and they would be within the folder, which the folder we have today is Sales Process 12/01/2012. Okay, so that's how you would upload the documents, and then that's the end of that process prior to you sending the case up for pre-approval. So what I'm going to do now is just show you how you send the case to pre-approval. So you would basically complete the full case except the remuneration, and then send it up for pre-approval, and once that comes back you would then set remuneration, and that's the equivalent of submitting the case. So again, the pre-approval process is just at the bottom of the annuities page on the intrinsic extranet, and as you can see here it just explains how you refer this for pre-approval, and also gives you contact details for the pension transfer helpline if you needed to get in touch with them. How to submit the case, which would be at, you would email the case details to @retirement@intrinsicfs.com, and in the subject bar you would make reference to the case being an annuity, and you would also complete the client's details in the email. So that would include the client's full name and postcode. It also has a section here which tells you about the documents that you require to upload for pre-approval. So that would be the completed workbench, which is what we've just done, the @retirement supplementary fact-find questions. So Andrea's just going to click in and show you these. So you would have this added to every annuity case, and you would just upload that to Office Web. And you would also have the attitude to risk profiler, any research that you've also completed, and client illustrations from the new provider, the suitability report, including any soft facts and notepad information, and the ID requirements as well. So again, if you need any further guidance on that, you can contact the advisor support team, or like I say, you can contact the pension transfer team, but first point of contact would be advisor support. So what I'm going to do now is open up for any questions that you have. That's basically the end of the demonstration for the annuity submission process. We do have quite a few questions in, so I'm going to just put the line on quiet for a while, have a read through the questions. If there's anything further that you can think of, just put your questions in the question box, and we'll be back with you in a couple of moments. Hello everybody, it's Andrea White again. I'd just like to say thank you very much to my colleague Sam Gibson from the advisor support team there, just for picking that up and for running you through the annuity sales process. I'd just like to point out another important point as well. We do actually have a copy of the sort of needs analysis section, a guideline document for you to use. And what I'll do is I'll just quickly show you where you can find that on the intrinsic extranet. It's down within the document store here on the left-hand side. And if we scroll down to Advice Quality Guidance at Retirement, we've actually got a section here marked Workbench Retirement Needs Analysis Guide. And this has been prepared following on some of the feedback that we received from some Positive Solutions advisors. Obviously the annuities process is slightly different and it doesn't always seem like it fits within the workbench sales process. So what we've done is we've created this guideline document for you to follow should you have any problems. It's literally a step-by-step screen print guide of the needs analysis section. So obviously the previous sections, the sort of fact-find financial information for the client is all the same as the usual process, but the needs analysis section is slightly different. Okay, so this is a step-by-step screenshot guide of how to complete those sections. Okay, and I'll just show you again where you can find that. It's from the intrinsic extranet page and down to the document store here on the left-hand side. And then I think it's the third section down, which is Advice Quality Guidance at Retirement. And the third document there is a Workbench Retirement Needs Analysis Guide. Okay, so I hope you all find that useful. It's just something that we've prepared over the last couple of weeks, mainly for Positive Solutions advisors following on from the training courses. Okay, and just a quick reminder again of where you can find the guidance and processes information, which includes all the pre-approval process. It's from AQ Guidance and Processes, Financial Planning Specialist, at Retirement, and then Annuities for you. Okay, we do have a couple of questions that have come in over the last few moments, so myself and Sam are going to have a read through these now for you, and we'll come back to you as soon as we possibly can. If you do have any further questions that you'd like to ask myself, Sam, or the rest of the advisor support team, please just pop those into the question box for us now. We'll pick those up for you as soon as we can. Today's session is running until 11:30, so there's plenty of time for you to ask your questions. Thanks, everyone. Hello everybody, it's Andrea again. So we have a question from Steve which came in towards the start of the webinar session. And Steve's mentioned, I have a policy under manual sales process, so that's under the Office Web Sales process for TOS purposes. However, the system requires a premium amount. What if the plan is paid up, as the system does not allow zero premium? So Steve, we had a similar question about this on yesterday's webinar session, and we did go through and speak to the commissions team. They advised if you could actually just pop in one penny, so 1 pence in there, that will allow you to move on with the system and allow you to go into the next stage and complete that. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Steve. If you just raise your hand to confirm it has, fantastic, thank you very much. We do have a couple more questions that have come in, so we're just going to read through these for you now and we'll come back to you as soon as we possibly can. Thanks everybody. Hi everyone, it's just Samantha here again. We've got, like I say, quite a few questions in, so I'm just going to take a question that we've had in from Carl. Carl asks, does the ATR profiler have any bearing? Yes, you do need to complete the ATR profiler with all cases, Carl. Andrea and myself have just skipped through that today just to try and save a bit of time on the fact find, just purely because we appreciate that you all know how to complete an ATR risk profiler. But you do need to complete that with every case, and that will have obviously a bearing on the outcome of the product that you advise to the client. And Carl, you also asked if you want to include a spouse or dependents benefits on the annuity, does the fact find have to be in joint names? No, the fact find is like I say, can be in the name of the person who's taken, who the annuity is going to be the benefit for. Any additional benefits to the annuity, whether spousal benefits or dependent benefits, they will be dependent on the annuity that you decide. So the fact find does not have to be in the name of anybody else. It can be just purely in the one name. I hope this answers your question there, Carl. If it does, if you can just raise your hand for me. That's excellent. Like I say, we've got a few more questions in, so I'm just going to have a read through those and come back to you in a second. Hi everyone, we've got a question in from Steve, and Steve asks, so is no desired income or target income required and shortfall analysis? The best practice, Steve, is to obviously input as much information as you can from the client. So if they have a target desired income, then you can input it. It doesn't have any bearing, obviously, on the advice. Like it's on the product that you advise or that you proceed with, but it's purely more for the benefit of the fact find. It's not a mandatory area, so it's not something that you need to cover off, but it would be advised to have the discussion with the client, and if they give you a required income, it's something for you to work from, and I would recommend adding that to the fact find. So Steve also asked, is open market option not classed as replacement business? No, it's actually not classed as a replacement business. However, it would need pre-approval. With all annuities that you do before sign off for the annuity advice process, you would need to receive pre-approval for anything that is open market option. And finally, you've also asked, so no analysis of income shortfall in retirement on system is required. That's correct. You don't need to, like I say, if there's an income shortfall, it's not something that you need to make a reference of, but I would recommend that you make a note of it in the notepad and explain the discussion that you've had with the client. I hope that answers your question there, Steve. If you could raise your hand if you're okay with that, brilliant. If anybody else has any queries, like I say, put them in the question box. We just have a few more to look at, and I'll be back with you in a couple of moments. Hi everyone, Samantha again. We've got a couple of questions in from Dorothy. Dorothy asks if you are doing an annuity but need to do it so that PCLS is paid by seeding scheme, e.g. because PCLS is higher than 25%, do we have to put this as a replacement? The answer to that, Dorothy, is no. Again, you don't need to put it as a replacement business. However, you would, again, need pre-approval for it. So you would just treat it through the normal pre-approval process. And following on from your question there, how long does it take for pre-approval, as presumably we're not allowed to send off to the provider until pre-approval is given, which can cause a problem if trying to secure an annuity rate. I do appreciate that, Dorothy, and that is correct. You're not able to submit the business until you do receive pre-approval guidance back. Now, we are trying to work on timescales from this, and as far as we are aware, the timescales are between 2 to 3 working days, but it is dependent on the complexity of the case. So we would say it wouldn't take longer than sort of 3 or 4 days to come back to you with some guidance on the pre-approval. I know this isn't probably ideal, but we are trying to get that down as quick as possible. But as you can imagine, it is extremely busy at the moment, so we're just trying to work through as quickly as we can. I hope this answers your questions there, Dorothy. If you can just raise your hand if you're okay with that. That's brilliant. Like I say, we've got a few more questions, so we'll just come back to you in a couple of moments. Hi everyone, it's just Samantha again, and we've got a question from Paul, and Paul said that he started a case yesterday, has pressed the wrong needs analysis button. So if just to take you back to the needs analysis page where there's the 3 options, and we would go for the middle option, which is the budget/transfer-based analysis. What people are tending to click is not required. So if you do click not required, it will basically sort of stop the case there. So I believe that's probably what you've done, Paul, which is, you know, I completely understand that. With regards to getting back into the case, the best thing for us to do is probably log into your system directly, so I can get one of the team to give you a ring back after the webinar. If you could just put in the question box the best number and time to contact you, Paul, so that we can get access to your system and just try and get around that. All right, that's excellent, Paul. Somebody will call you back. We'll have a look at try and get that chased up for you this after the webinar at 11:30. Okay, we've just got another couple of questions in. And the question's off Steve again, and Steve asks, if annuity includes provision for spouse, do we need to fact find the spouse and take ID? If the annuity includes a provision for the spouse, you would not need to include the spouse on the fact find, because it's just purely based on the annuity and the provider. All I would suggest is that you make notes in the notepad to explain that the annuity that you're going to proceed with is going to have spousal benefits and what these are, but there's no requirement for you to take the ID for the spouse. So I hope this answers your question there, Steve. Brilliant. We have no further questions in at the moment, so if anybody has anything that they'd like to ask, like I say, we're here for another, for another half an hour. So the line may go quiet for a few moments just while we're waiting for some questions to come in, and then we'll try and get you an answer as soon as possible.